Interesting times indeed. Um, and particularly so for um, Black people, brown people, and marginalized people in this country. Um, so let's talk about that. Um, I I think when I was really little, I figured that there was 50% Black people in the world and 50% white people in the world, and that's just what it was. I mean, when you don't think about the numbers, you're a tiny child. It doesn't really occur to you that there's really any meaningful difference in statistics. But obviously, you get a little older, and the world is taught to you the way that it exists, and you behold it in a way that is kind of shared. That the way you behold it is similar to the way the other people do. And finding out that you're a minority, and your history in this country is very different than a lot of other people. That you are the people that came over as slaves, and that it's not a flattering history. There's no dignity in that. Nobody would choose for that to be their history. But ultimately, you find beauty in that story. You find resilience. You find strength in that story. But that word minority, it makes you feel small. And then, growing up, you see what happens to your people. You realize, oh, this is kind of only happening to my people. If not only, it's disproportionately happening to my people. And it happens here in California, when I was little, and then happens all over the whole country. Disproportionately to my people, the people that look like me. And I think, words matter, language matters. How we kind of shape our mental framework is shaped by the words that we use, kind of the base coding of how we, the language, how language forms our internal dialogue, how we conceptualize the world. And so coming across this data here, I think kind of expands the view of indeed what it means to be a minority in this country, specifically, obviously, for Black people in the United States. So just how many Black people are there in the United States? Okay, so I'm going to share, I got this data from the Ancestral Alignment Instagram page. It's just a bunch of sheets or whatever, but I want to make sure I give them credit because this inspired this segment. All right, so the United States Black population is 42 million, right? It's a big country, third largest country in the world by population. 42 million Black people in this country. Another country that is in the news a lot is Ukraine. And the total population of all of the human beings in the Ukraine is 39 million. Indeed, there are more Black people in the United States than there are Ukrainians, period. Let's move to North Korea. Total population of 26 million. And again, 42 million in the U.S., 26 million in in North Korea. The United States Black population of 42 million, that is a larger number than 44 out of the 54 countries in Africa. Right. So, just to give you a sense of scale, indeed, the Black population of the United States is larger than 41 out of the 47 European countries. The Black population in the United States is larger than 8 Middle Eastern countries combined. And there are only 3 countries in South America that have a larger population than Black America. 15 out of 51 Asian countries have a larger population than Black Americans. And the Black American population is nearly the size of the entire Caribbean population. And for folks that know, there's a lot of folks in the Caribbean. And when you combine those two populations, you realize just how many souls were robbed from Africa. And you know, for me, this again, it shows how many people were taken not only from Africa but subjected to chattel slavery. Blackness was a permanent underclass. Indeed, the word black arose as a result of chattel slavery, to delineate the slave class from the non-slave class. This would be the late 1500s, early 1600s. Before that, the word white and the word black didn't exist to refer to human beings. It only came about as a result of slavery. Before that, you were a Scotsman or an Englishman or a Moroccan or Egyptian or whatever. You just were from the land you were from. Had nothing to do with what color your skin was. But if we can take all the black people and make them all slaves permanently, then we can have a word for them that separates them from the non-black, from the non-slave class. I think this data also shows the potential for unity and having a singular vision in those numbers. And obviously, you know, people that are supportive and allies, and people can support Ukraine and people can support, you know, all these other countries, and people have indeed supported Black Americans. And so that potential for unity, once you have the numbers and you realize what it looks like on a global scale, I think it's empowering. I think the numbers also show that we often, you know, think of ourselves as, again, a smaller group in the context of the larger United States. But, you know, this takes the numbers and applies them again to that global scale. And it shows the amount of influence and spending power and so forth that indeed we've been told that we have on the planet. And then you get that scale of like, oh, yes, I could see it now. So those are my early thoughts. Q, your thoughts hearing this data?
Everything that has a glimpse of positivity, again, because of how the last decade has gone, always causes me to pump my brakes, because it sounds hopeful that if we could find some type of diasporic or global solidarity, that we could in numbers move mountains and bring about real change. But we do have to realize the disconnect that exists outside of this country with people of Black and brown skin all over the world. And we live here, where that almost 50 million people is a fraction of the over 300 million people that live here. And I think we make up about 13% of the population of our own country.
Like
so yes, our number with regard to the world writ large would be awesome if we could all collectively go somewhere and start our own thing. But we live here, and the reality of this country and its laws and how it's always viewed and treated us. So there is hope in those numbers. There is potential in those numbers. There is the power in those numbers. But it will require a solidarity across oceans with people who we've never met, who some don't understand or even empathize with our plight and our lived experience. We have trouble finding that solidarity here amongst each other. The fact that the numbers weren't 100 and 100 for Black men and women with regard to how we voted shows that we still have work to do. Now, our percentage is significantly higher than others where it should have been. But given what we know is true, there's blinders that we had to put on. And like, again, this level of cognitive dissonance that we had to practice for all of us to not look at an existential threat and call it exactly that and act accordingly. So I love that this points out what's possible, but I unfortunately have to be reminded of the reality that we live in.
I think that's fair. But again, you got to reframe the problem or frame the problem in order to know how to approach it. So I think that it's a good step one. All right.